mbokk yi jërë ngeen jëf ñu ngi leen di nuyu beneen yoon fii ci Africa TV waxtu bi dal di jot di 9 o'clock suñu maakaan ñu amaat mbégte dal laat leen beneen yoon ci Good Morning Africa fii ci Africa TV ñu wax leen jërë ngeen jëfati fi ngeen munte nekk ci biir réew mi ba ci biti réew ci xam naa ne bu waxtu bi jotee yéen da ngeen ñoo xaar ñu ñëw indi leen xibaar yu am solo ci biir réew mi naka noonu ba ci biti réew ñu waxtaanee comme ni ñu koy defee saa su ne tey tamit noonu lay demee inshallah. Well viewers, thank you very much wherever you might be watching. It's another edition of the Good Morning Africa, and of course we are happily back again to bring you another very highly informative edition inshallah of the program, because we have very interesting matters to discuss this morning. And of course we have already our guests seated in the studio so we can discuss about that. So wherever you are around the world, once again thank you very much as always for being with us. And this morning we're going to talk about matters of the EU and the Gambia, political matters, whatever, because yesterday the EU issued a statement and of course raising concerns about Gambia's recent political activities or commitment or whatsoever. We'll get to that, and of course we have guests to talk about that, and also we will talk about the government announcing that the reopening of weekly markets, or the LUMOs, or commonly known as LUMOs, and and other interesting matters also will be discussed this morning. So once again thank you very much for joining us. su ko defee mbokk yi comme na ngeen ko déggee noonu tey ci jotaay jile ci Good Morning Africa dañoo waxtaane li nga xamante ne mooy li am solo, kon ni ñu ko waxee suñu gan yi teew nañ ñu dalal leen ñu waxtaan ci lu yaatu ci li nga xamante ne tey loolu la ñoo waxtaanee ci bokk di European Union dañ dal di génnee bataaxal dal di wane seen taxawaay wala bokk ci yenn concerns yi nga xamante ne am nañ ko ci doxalin bi nga xamante ne nguuru Gambia jamono ji ñu ngi ko doxal ci wàllum li nga xamante ne mooy transition bi ak yu mel noonu. xam ngeen ne bu yàggul draft constitution bi dañ ko reject, loolu nag dafa mel ni am nañ ci concern, loolu nañ ko waxtaanee ak suñuy gan léegi inshallah. Leneen li nga xamante ne tamit nañ ko boole ci waxtaan bi mooy lu mooy ubbi nañ ko wala nguur gi nee na daal war nañ ko ubbi bataaxal bi démba génn na jógee ko ci spokesperson ku yore kàddu nguur gi. loolu tamit nañ ko waxtaanee ak suñ ganam ndax ñu bari yàggoon nañ ko sàkku pour ñu ubbi ko ci li nga xamante ne mooy ci biir réew mi. xam ngeen nag mbas mi bu mu fi duggee ba léegi loolu dañ ko tëjoon, loolu tamit nañ ko waxtaan ak ay yeneen suñuy xibaar tey ci jotaay ji. nañ ci toftal tamit mooy ñi super review ci kanam tuuti dana am ku ñu fekk ci plateau bi ñu waxtaanee ko, waaye tamit what's trending is also coming along, so you stick around with that. Well viewers, thank you very much, and we're going to start with matters of the EU, like I said, because the European Union has said it has observed with growing concern a marked slowdown in the pace of the reform process in the Gambia over the last months, following the rejection of the draft promulgation bill 2020. The EU High Representatives and Vice President Joseph Borrell said in a statement on Monday that it is key for the 2021 presidential election to take place on the basis of a new social contract. Mr. Borrell stated that the constitutional review process is linked to other pillars of the democratic transition, such as the Truth Commission and the security sector reform. Therefore, it is important to lay the foundations for the follow-up on these processes. The European Union also calls on the Barrow-led government to take the lead in building the necessary national consensus around the future direction of the democratic transition, with a new constitution as its core. And I am glad to say, joining me to discuss more on this statement and other matters is Mr. Mfamara Jaune, the Executive Director of Mbe Kanyan Organization. Mr. Jaune, good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Excellent. And also, we are joined by Omar Sise of the, of course, GDC, a National Assembly member for Nyamina East. Omar, good morning and thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, good morning, all viewers, and of course, I am pleased to be here or participate as long as the platform is concerned.
Fantastic. So they are our guest this morning, so we can talk about this. su ko defee mbokk yi ñu ngi noonu ñoom ñooy suñu gan tey ci jotaay ji Mr. Famara Jaune moom moo jiital moom moo nekk li nga xamante ne mooy executive director, moom moo jiite Mbe Kanyan Organisation. waaye tamit Oumar Cissé nekk ki nga xamante ne mooy député ci pencum ndaw réew mi mu teewal fa GDC ak tamit Nyamina East. su ko defee nañ waxtaane yi waaye tamit ak affaire yi lu mooy ndax moom surtout moom taxawaayam bi ñëpp xam nañ ko. Mr. Jaune, to start with you, of course we have just read the statement issued by the European Union yesterday, and of course it's talk about the transition, and of course they have a concern of the slow pace of the transitional process of the government. And of course, this is more or less came after the rejection of the draft constitution. What did you make of the statement released by the EU?
Thank you very much. Once again, good morning, viewers. I think this is a very important statement, but ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, it shouldn't have reached at this stage.
Oh, really?
No, it shouldn't have reached at this stage. Now, the European Union, being one of our development partners, is reminding us of the promises that our government made to the Gambian people in 2016. So why should we wait until our development partners would come and remind us about the social contract that we have with our government?
Is it a reminder, or they're just showing or expressing their concern because they have been putting their monies in, and as the saying goes, put your mouth where your money is, and maybe because they were funding and they felt that they need to say something?
I agree as well. It could be either way. So ultimately, like they say, it goes where you put your money in is where you put your mouth.
Yeah.
So ultimately, they have the right as our development partners, but also, the world, that is a global village. The world is a global village. The Gambia is part of international bodies, and because of the world being a global village, and these are our development partners, and this is one of the commitments, one of the biggest, commitment for that matter, that the government of the Gambia made to the development partners, but to the Gambian people, that they were going to do. So if they fail to do, of course, the European Union is one of the, like I said, main donors for the Gambia government.
Now the EU, and of course, and other missions in the Gambia issued a statement prior to the vote at the National Assembly urging the members to support the bill. And now another statement. Does it, perhaps would show that they're trying to push the government, or to force, or maybe to dictate on what they should do or whatever?
As far as I understand, they are not pushing. They are not dictating, to speak. Now, remember the crucial role that European Union play and other development partners to ensure that the will of the Gambian people is respected and enforced.
How can you divine their actions as we speak? Well, before the vote of the bill, now after the rejection, yet still they are showing their position. How would you divine this? Are they not trying to maybe meddle into our own affairs as others have been proclaimed, or claiming, I should say?
For me, that is not the case. Now, when it was tough for the Gambian people, when Jammeh rejected the results in 2016, as Gambians, we called for the support of our development partners, including the EU, to intervene. And of course, they went to the Security Council of the United Nations in New York and ensured that there is a resolution to ensure that the will of the Gambian people is respected. And after that, after we've seen the numerous supports that the European Union has been providing through various UN agencies as well, people have to understand. You hear some people say that, okay, EU didn't put much money in the constitutional review process here and there, but you have to understand that the European member states of the European Union are also parts and parcel of the United Nations, and various UN agencies, including the UNDP, have been very supportive in this transition period. Okay,
I'll come back to you. Now I'll come to Umar Sise, who is a National Assembly member. Of course, we all know what happened, but he's somebody who supported the draft. It's good to say that. Now, Omar, what did you make of all this? He said we should not have got to this level. But of course, many are blaming the National Assembly members some of their position. I know, like I said, you supported, but what did you make of this whole situation?
Well, first, I will say it is not in any way the EU or other development partners trying to dictate the government of the Gambia. Like he said, I totally concur with him that we could have averted some of these things or some of these happenings, because considering the fact that we have spent so much money, considering the fact that we have spent so much energy in order to develop, in order to formulate a new draft constitution. This was set up not just from the group that was set up called the CRC, but it is from the ideas, from the beliefs, from the opinion of the Gambian people. So I believe the National Assembly members, of course, my colleagues, they could have give chance to this draft constitution so that we could have get to the next stage. You have a concern, I have a concern. Every individual in this country, one can say, you have a particular concern that is not just captured in that draft constitution. As a result, there is a room created your concern and my concern where some of these things can be addressed. But if you refuse to give room to that dialogue to take place, that's where the challenge is. And I believe that this is what some of the National Assembly members fail to understand. Because I have some of them saying, what is my guarantee if my concern is not addressed at that level? But it's a dialogue. The CRC members will defend whatsoever that they wrote as long as the draft is concerned. So giving chance to the draft constitution to pass the second reading of the National Assembly would have created room for dialogue. But people saying the EU, they are trying to dictate. No, of course, they are just trying to remind the government. And I think something that I should have done, you went around the entire country.
But the government the government also have said they are still committed to the transitional process.
But still now, they cannot indicate to the Gambian people what other step are they going to take as long as the draft is concerned. You and I, we are yet to know this. And knowing fully, the government, I will tell you this, they were very committed to have this bill rejected. This I can tell you. Because they have already made up their minds, they have already have their agreement and all those stuff. So knowing fully that they are going to reject this draft constitution, they could have plans ahead before the rejection.
Talking about, not knowing what would happen next, of course, these are processes as you may know, but then, of course, yesterday the Justice Minister was on the papers and he was saying, they are open to engagement and they're going to, engage stakeholders in this process and, the process would continue, and to see if there's any way that they can reconsider the draft or the constitution again. So I think there's possibility. Don't you think so?
I agree. The possibility is there for them to come back. But are you considering the time? Because the purpose of this draft constitution was, at least before the next election, presidential election, I mean 2021, we wanted to have this reform done and completed, so that this will better define the way and the manner in which we are going to conduct our next election and how we are going to operate as long as the next government is concerned. But what guarantee do you have? Do you think this process will be able to complete before the next presidential election? It is not possible, in my own view, because I hold the view that if maybe they want to amend some of the provisions, piecemeal amendment, maybe we can achieve some of these things.
Okay.
But to bring the draft entirely for us to get into the referendum stage, I'm not seeing the possibility from now against the next presidential election.
All right. Mr. Jan, what did you make of that? Do you think there's a way out, moving forward, as he's saying, the Justice Minister is talking about, reconsideration and all that. What do you think could be the way forward? Are we on the right track to get another constitution, a new constitution to usher in a third republic, probably, or maybe to lead us to the elections? What do you think?
I think it's possible. I think it is very, very possible.
How possible?
I believe that the government and the National Assembly have a greater role to play here.
Okay.
Now, I know it's about processes, but they could amend the CRC Act. They could also go back to the 1997 Constitution, where the issue of referendum and the issue of constitutional amendments and other things were mentioned, and amend those parts if possible, so as the period that it takes to gazette it and do all those things, for instance, because it took, a while, like Honorable says. So if there is any possibility for them to amend those parts of the law so that we can have it done within a short period of time. Otherwise, I am afraid, like he said, we might not, and that's going to be very serious because the government promised the Gambian people of ushering in third republic.
Yes. And that's seemingly not possible as of now.
It's left to them, the technocrats and the Ministry of Justice and the National Assembly and the government as a whole. They have to go and look at our law books and make sure that we have this done, because that's the demand.
I know Mr. Cisse is itching to say something, but should, in case all that we are talking could not possible, and we have gone to the elections, courtesy of the 1997 Constitution, would that be a failure?
No, that's going to be very catastrophic for this country. We cannot go into 1990, we cannot go to the 2021 presidential elections without two things: having a new constitution, or amend the provisions of the 1997 Constitution that will, meet up with the expectations and aspirations of the Gambian people. So we must do something.
Okay, Omar, yes, you want to...
Well, I was just trying to put across, you don't amend a particular law to address a particular situation. That's not how laws are amended. I am not a legal expert.
Well, Honorable, you did a lot of that in the past.
Yes. I'm not a legal expert, obviously, but this I do understand. Like,
that.
some of these provisions one is talking about, they are entering clauses of the Constitution. And
which are, let us be specific here, which are these clauses exactly are we talking about? So that those watching would know the entrenched clauses that we are talking about. Can you tell us what they are and what
exactly now, for instance, if you talk of the issue of referendum, this is about the Gambian people deciding.
Yes.
Now, for instance, if you want to avoid some of this process, as long as the draft is concerned, you must go back to the Gambian people to decide.
No, one of the main concerns Gambians have is about, let's say, the 50%, going to the election. That's a concern, and also I forgot the other one, but I think this has been the main one.
And the time limit, of course.
The time limit, of course, yeah.
Yes.
But then I think this can be amendable.
And this is what exactly I am talking about. Now, for instance, having this amended, maybe you cannot amend electoral law 9 months before election. This is practically impossible. That is what the law is dictating. So obviously, that is why I am telling you the possibility is very narrow for us to have some of these amendments if we don't fast track things before we get to the next presidential election. Because if you do, then you are trying to amend that provision or clause of the Constitution to suit a particular situation.
Okay, I'll come back to you. But yesterday I spoke to the EU ambassador, Attila Laios, and of course he seems to be optimistic despite the concerns they have raised. Let's listen to him.
I do not see the government failing to carry on with the changes. So I don't believe that we are at a stage like that, and the transition is not failing. I do believe what is important to underline that there is still 1.5 years ahead of the Gambia till the next presidential election. So it is keenly important that the time is used most efficiently to make sure that the interlinked, interconnected pillars of the transitional justice will all lead to the ambitious objectives.
All right, that's the EU ambassador there speaking. He is still, he didn't see a failure as of now. And do you think, I mean, the government really did not fail to its, responsibilities and promises to the Gambian people in regards to the transitional process and all that?
Well, obviously, like I said, having a new constitution, it was one of the, the promises. Yeah. It's one of the promises, that the new government made to the Gambian people in 2016. So obviously, if they fail to usher in a new republic through having a new constitution, they would fail the Gambian people. So obviously, the honor now lies on the Gambian government.
Yeah, but the EU ambassador who have been putting their monies are saying there's still hope.
I agree. Entirely, I agree.
It's not fair.
I agree. I agree. That's why I said it's left to the government. They have time. Like the Honorable mentioned, 9 months or so. We still have more than 9 months, So it's left to the government to fast track the process. They know the procedures. Let them start something and
do you think there's the political will from the higher level, I should say?
Well, before, if there were a political will, we don't have reached where we are today. Yes. Okay. We don't have reached where we are today.
So there is a lack of, commitment into the process.
Entirely. Because you know what? When the CRC Act was brought into Parliament, we are all happy. Because it was brought in by the government. And, CRC was established, they were given enough resources, by the government, of course, through the National Assembly to carry out the work. So we are all happy. But when the draft came, especially the final draft, people weren't sure whether the executive, they were going to tamper with it or not. People were not sure. But again, when we came to the final vote or whatsoever, we saw what happened. We saw what happened. The Honorable Minister didn't do justice to the work as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
He could have done better.
He could have done better. Honorable knows that. Of course. This bill is a government bill. So government should make sure they defend it and convince the honorable members. Very well. Anyone who wasn't sure whether they could vote for it or not should have been convinced by the honorable minister. Well. If there was no conspiracy theory prior to that,
There
like
was.
Honorable said.
There was.
Wow. It seems Mr. Sis is agreeing to what you were saying. He said, it seems, what did you make of that?
Yeah.
You two felt the justice minister or the honorable did not do justice to what
Very well.
his responses.
I totally concur. In fact, I could remember when upon the debate when the justice minister was responding some of the concern raised by honorable members, because we had some of the honorable members raising concern and saying, my position can only be determined when I am convinced by the honorable minister. That is the justice minister.
Yes.
But the justice minister was not in any way trying to defend the document that was given to him from the government. And the justice minister was just picking some of the issues and giving answers to those that were not actually satisfied in fact to the general
But don't you
public.
think also,
Not
like
only
he
the
said,
National
at some
Assembly
point he
members.
was not at the right position to respond to some of the concern or queries that were raised by some of the members. It was up to the CRC members to be given the chance and come and explain, but that never happened.
Well, the point here is, if the justice minister, the document was there almost 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months before the document was tabled before the National Assembly.
Yeah.
My opinion is the justice minister should have go through the document thoroughly, make thorough consultation and further research about the document as to how he is going to defend that document in the National Assembly, because he knows very well that issues must come, pertinent issues must come, and he is there to answer some of these issues adequately. And the other point is, looking at the whole scenario now, if we are to review the constitution entirely, for instance, do we have the time to go and consult the Gambian people again?
I was going to ask you just finally on this matter. I mean, what do you think is the possibilities to get us out from this situation we are? I mean, we are talking about amendment, we are talking about consideration again, going back to the processes. I mean, what is the likely possibility here in this case as a National Assembly member? What do you think could be possible
to
get the Gambians their wishes and aspirations in this case?
Very well. The possibility is still there. The room is still there.
What is it then?
Yes, exactly. Now that we had the Justice Minister saying they are going to set an independent body out there that will go over the Constitution and review the Constitution. Yes, that is a possibility, because there is nothing restricting the executive.
But you know what? We talked about the timeline. One of the main concerns that many believe that have contributed to its rejection is because of the timeline. I mean,
of course.
I mean, some of the members who rejected, they said the retroactive, provision should not be there. And it seems if there is any chance it to be brought back to the National Assembly again, that
what
would be
the tendency of the Constitution being passed again? Because most of my colleagues do argue that the current term of the president must not be inclusive.
Yeah.
So those who agree, the other National Assembly members, of course, we are 31 in number, they are 23 in number. What will be my position
so
if
now,
the CRC,
do you
for instance, should go again and change that provision?
Just fine. Do you think if that did not change in the draft, would it have chance to go through?
The possibility I can still tell you and I will indicate to you is very narrow still, because others will still not agree to that. Because it's not from you and I, it's from the Gambian people. And my people agree to this. And others who voted yes, their people also agree to this.
Mr. Jan,
so what is the possibility?
Thank you. Mr. Jan, what do you think? Would it be wise to give it a chance? Like, this is an issue. Let's discuss it. Probably let's redefine it, let's refrain it and whatsoever, and then see what's possible and then move on. Or is it that they have, this have to be in the draft, come what may, and then see what happens? What do you think could be the possibility here?
First, before coming to the possibility, I start with CRC report. Now, they made it very clear that the wishes and aspirations of the Gambian people, majority of the Gambian people, do not want to be ruled by one person more than 10 years. That's what CRC is telling us. So if
I think even the president is committed to that.
Well, that's something else. But if we are really going to reconsider, or probably said, let's remove the president's current term from the whole thing, then that means now we are giving room for the current president to serve up to 15 years, which majority of the Gambians are against. So for me right now, what is at stake? We need a national dialogue. We need a compromise. We need to engage with everyone and put Gambia first.
In the compromise, don't you think that could be an issue then?
It depends on the Gambian people. And the majority of the Gambian people per se.
Yeah, but at the end, it all depends to the people that would determine. And if it gets to the National Assembly, we saw what happened.
Well, that's why I said we need a compromise.
Okay.
We need a compromise as Gambians.
All right.
But we cannot afford to miss this opportunity because we are not transitioning. We are stuck at one place.
Okay.
So we need to move.
We got to leave it at that, and that's in that aspect, and we move on to the next discussion, of course, with regards to weekly markets or lemons, because the President Adama Barrow has declared all weekly markets or lumos to the Gambia open with immediate effect. According to a statement from the Office of the Government Spokesperson, all lumo market committees, traders, visitors, and supervisory area council are urged to continue adhering to the Public Health Emergency Act, Dangerous Infectious Diseases Protection Regulation 2020, including the wearing of face masks, provision of hand washing facilities, and regular cleansing of market areas, the statement added. Now, the 1025 toll-free hotline of the Ministry of Health remains open to members of the public, and lumo market operators and traders are encouraged to make good use of it for relevant information on COVID-19. That is the end of the statement. Omar, I'll come to you this time around. Finally, President have declared lumos to be open with immediate effect. You have been one of the people that have been calling this, urging the government, on all levels to make sure the lumos or weekly markets are open. What did you make of the decision and the time of the announcement of this decision also?
Very well. Well, I will felicitate the government for having considered the demand of the masses. I will say.
Okay.
Actually, I have no intention whatsoever to subject the people, especially the rural Gambia or the Gambian people at large, to any health implication or the possibility of them being infected as long as COVID is concerned. I have no intention, and I will never encourage anything that will subject the people of this nation to be infected as long as COVID is concerned. But it is logical when you are making a decision or when you are taking a move to see the direction in which you are moving to. Because we have seen, I have never made this complaint when COVID was new in this country. I never complained because we never know what will be the repercussion of everything. But after some months, we have realized, of course, the farmers, after cultivating and whatsoever, some of these products are now ripe. Our people suffered a lot during the past 3-4 months. And now that we are in the rainy season is about to end, we have seen Yes, we have seen farmers cultivate what they have cultivated. Their products now are ripe and they are placed right there. Okay. And the other challenge we have, there is no storage facility where they can store some of these things. We continue seeing the Senegalese coming to our farmers, buying some of these products at a very cheap price. Because their lumos are open, they are intruders coming in, buying this, then they are going back to their country to sell this at a very, very high price. They are making profit to the detriment of our farmers.
Okay. Mr. Jani, what do you make of this move from the government? Is it the right moment, right time to open lumos? Of course, I know you are leading an organization. I've been very much concerned about the welfare of the vulnerable communities and all that. So what did you make of this, and especially the time that the government have came out to finally open lumos?
I think it's a welcome development. Like Honorable rightly said, farmers now start harvesting their produce. So it's important at this moment that they have market for their produce. And lumos happens to be one avenue for farmers to trade among themselves. So I think it's a very important decision, a welcome decision. Our people, especially farmers in the rural areas who depend on the lumos for the sale of their produce, definitely suffered a lot. But again, I have concerns. I have concerns that the Minister of Health should put in mechanisms to ensure that those entering the country from Senegal borders to our lumos are screened, well screened for that matter, and they provide hand washing stations at the borders for people coming from Senegal to attend our lumos. Because good number of people visiting our lumos also come from Senegal. So, and Senegal still now have a lot of cases.
But would that be an easy thing to do, considering that the porous borders we have and the concern that many people have been raising? Well, and of late, of course, many people are also worried about another wave, a second wave of the virus, especially as we are seeing in Europe. And WHO, in fact, has been raising concern whether Africa has been reporting the actual figures of the numbers of COVID-19 in our respective countries. And you are talking about concerns now.
Well, personally, I have those fears that if the Ministry of Health do not provide those, safety measures, there might be another wave in this country. So I encourage the ministry to put in those mechanisms, because it's not every community that has a LUMO. Yeah,
but if you talk about worries and concerns, of course, the ministry is urging the public to be more cautious and, of course, take responsibility and, at their own level to clean markets, put on face masks. And you're what are some of these concerns that you have, that you're talking about? And I think, so that we can exactly know.
People can stop handshaking at some extent during LUMOs.
Yeah.
People cannot social distance at the LUMOs. No. I came from the rural area myself.
Yeah.
Few kilometers from Sarangay Lumo, one of the biggest Lumos in this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people cannot social distance. That's out of it. Again, face mask, people don't have enough in the rural areas. They borrow each other's face mask.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. That's a problem again. Another problem again, people don't wash their hands much, especially at the Lumos. You understand? Because they don't have the facilities there. So government need to provide those facilities and make sure everyone entering the Lumos are screened, especially those coming from Senegal.
Could one say that the government was right to, shut down the Lumos all this while? And then, considering the calls, many were saying, and of course, including the honorable member here, who have made several calls urging the government to open the Lumos. And considering what you're saying here, or put it into consideration, don't you think then the government were in a rightful position to keep Lumos shut down until maybe right now?
Of course, I was one of those who advocated for the Lumos to be closed down at the first instance.
Yeah.
Of course. But whether it is justified for it to take this too long is something else.
Because markets were open at this end of the country.
Exactly, and we've seen crowds. And we've seen our figures also going down. You understand? So whether it is justified for them to wait all this too long is something else. But I do know that it's important that we close our Lumos temporarily. And now that we are reopening, it's a good news for everyone. But the measures must be in place for us to ensure that we don't have another wave of COVID-19 in this country.
Mr. Sisi, how do you think these measures can be put in place as he highlighted? But then again, as you may know, in the other part of the country, not many believe there's COVID. And what they say is the Comba virus and whatsoever. And then in as much as we are concerned and of course people are worried, but then you will agree with me that not everybody believes there's COVID at that part of the country. So what do you think could be done to avert anything sort of what has been happening?
Well, I do believe that COVID is real and is deadly.
No, of course
I do encourage people, of course, to have the same concept and of course to take the necessary measures to avoid oneself from being infected. Well, that is one of the reasons that I put forward, that if the markets in the urban area, of course, you talk of Serekunda, Banjul, Birkama, and so on, considering the infection of the disease in the greater Banjul area, and of course, considering the number of people occupying some of these places, markets, I will call it. So to me, that alone is enough justification for us to have our Lumos open. That was one of my arguments. Two, recently we have seen the president going around the country, gathering a large number of people. There's no justification. None of these measures.
I was going to ask also, like you said, the president is at the provinces, and maybe, this might also be. Do you see this as a political move? Because he's there, he might do this to please the people that were there, and then maybe score some political gains here and there, as most politicians would perceive and whatsoever. What do you think?
No, whatever the president is doing at this particular moment is politically motivated. That I can tell you.
Oh, really?
But the fact of the matter is, our people at the provinces, they are very committed to adhere to some of these measures. But it is because they have not seen our top authorities applying some of these measures, that is why they are also reluctant to perform some of these measures. Because look at it. Get to our offices, our top places, officials, and so on. Get there and you see whether now we have hand washing containers there or not. Get to our offices, you see the president talking without even a face mask with a large crowd. So these are things that is definitely sending a message to the people out there that COVID no more exists in the Gambia. This is what I told people.
Oh, really?
That the message that the president is sending is directly and clearly indicating to the Gambian people that COVID is no longer in the country.
But
Because
this is about a responsibility also, Mr. Sisi, you would agree. In as much as the president might be doing whatever you might say, but you also, like you said, you believe there's COVID, and it's your responsibility and someone else's responsibility to keep people safe and keep yourself safe and also make sure others are safe.
well, I think this is what I said earlier. I said I will never tolerate, I will never encourage anything that will enhance the spread of this COVID-19. I think I do say this. And now that I am saying, if I can take the charge to sensitize people to prevent myself from COVID, so why not the president who is out there encouraging people? Why not the health minister? Why not the justice minister who are actually surrounding the whole subject to ensure that the president and the top official to adhere to some of these measures?
Okay.
Do you know that the people who are gathered during this tour, do you know that most of them are children, school-going children, and they are, I can tell, let me put this to you. We have 673,300 students whose schooling is directly affected.
Okay.
So, and these are the people we are seeing, as long as the tour is concerned.
All right, we are close to the end of the program. Now, Mr. John, you know, of course, what did you make of the position of the National Assembly also in all this process fighting COVID? To some extent, many believe they were not proactive in the process. They have left entirely the burden on the executive to help us, Mr. I say, to protect Gambians, or even maybe trying to undermine some of the efforts government were trying to do. And because I've seen at some point the rejection of the extension of the state of emergency and all that. What do you make of that and the entire situation?
You know, I think the National Assembly members, a good number of them, if not all, most of them have done great in trying to reach out to their people back in their constituencies and educate them, sensitize them about COVID-19. I'm aware of that. And I do know that, you know, when they were also debating about the extension of the state of emergency, at some point, they couldn't agree, some of them, based on the fact that some of the issues they raised was about, you know, some of the provisions that the government put in place for the masses. You know, most people in this country live hand to mouth. So you really want to close the country, and you don't provide them with any means. So those are some of their concerns. But again, I think what is more important at this moment also is that I also fault the National Assembly at some point, especially when the health minister mentioned about some alleged corruption with regards to COVID-19 funds. I was expecting the National Assembly to hold the executive accountable.
But that never happened.
That never happened. To hold the executive accountable, summon the Minister of Health again back to the National Assembly and ensure that the executive provide explanation to the Gambian people about the taxpayers' money that has been allegedly looted as far as COVID-19 is concerned. But they haven't done that.
Well, you expected something
more?
Of
course, the National Assembly has the oversight of all that. So they fail in that responsibility. They have to make sure that they hold the government accountable in every aspect. But they haven't done that.
I would allow Umar to respond that. Do you agree that I mean, there was a shutdown or a failure from the end of the National Assembly in that case?
Well, maybe if you don't understand the procedure of the National Assembly, one can just view it in that dimension. But actually, we have what you call committees. Of course, he knows better. He knows what I am talking about. The committee is, of course, responsible of some of these things, because there is a session going on at that time, and of course we have businesses to deal with. And upon that, the committee, of course, was tasked to investigate whatsoever all monies surrounding COVID-19. And I believe the Public Finance Committee, they are diligently dealing with this subject. So their report is not yet out. That I cannot tell. I don't have no intention to predict what is coming as long as that corruption saga is concerned. But I know that the committee is working on this. These are things that are not normally open, meetings or debate and so on. Sometimes if they feel that it is necessary for the public to see what exactly is happening, they can invite, like yesterday, Africa do go there and cover some of these committee meetings. And these are some of the things that are happening. Maybe if there is no plenary or extra or session, people might not get to understand some of these things. But knowing that after their investigation or whatever, this committee will come up with a comprehensive report before the plenary, and the Gambian people will be obliged to know some of these things that are happening.
Just finally, final comments, Mr. Jaune. Now, what do you think? You have raised concern, and then of course Lumos are opening now. It has been a long call. Finally, the government has hit to the call. What position should the government take to accompany the public in this process?
There are many things that they could do. The Ministry of Health has to engage the civil society organizations, the community-based organizations in various districts across the country. Every district where you have a LUMO, there are civil society organizations across the country. Engage them to go to LUMOs. Use public address system to sensitize our people. You mentioned about some people not believing. People need to be enlightened about COVID-19, especially at the community level. Yeah. So they could do that. But again, like I mentioned before, they need to provide those protocols, those safety protocols, like hand washing stations at the LUMOs. They need to make sure that they supply LUMOs with face mask. You understand? They need to make sure they provide all the enabling environment, to ensure that our people are not infected with COVID-19.
Okay.
But it's a collective responsibility. Remember, I always say this. If you are in position of authority, don't say, I don't care. This is a problem in this country. I don't care. They are all the way there, so I don't care. We have to run away from that. We have to move away from that. Okay. We have to care about the health and safety of our people.
Thank you. Mr. Cisse, finally, of course, the people have been calling the government to open, and now the markets are open. Is that enough, or are you ready to go back to your people again, keep reminding about COVID and some of the responsibility they need to take in this situation?
It's not about going back to remind them. This is a continuous process, and I have been doing this day in, day out, because we have platforms where I do sensitize people about it.
Okay.
Whenever I have the chance to go there, I do go to villages and sensitize them. This is something that I am doing. It's about strengthening what exactly I am doing. But that is not enough. Like you said, the government now, people are committed to adhere to some of these measures, but the materials needed, actually they cannot afford it. The government should ensure that some of these things are provided so that people can adhere to some of these measures. That I can also tell you.
All right. Omar Cisse, of course, who is the National Assembly member for Nyamina East, and of course from the Gambia Democratic Congress, GDC. Thank you very much for your time. And of course, Mr. Mfamara Jaune, who is the Executive Director of Mbe Kanyan Organization. It was a pleasure having you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll take a short break. And it is, of course, up next, it's what's trending. And we come with that.
Depuis démba xettali ma rek ni jaay jindal ma bala yére yi di wow dama passé
fi amu fi ben xaalis la amut wa may ma tuuti waaw Mamadou waaw mané dimbal ñu rek cash power léegi suñ cash power moo jeex depuis démb ok baax na
wayo ni jaay jaxle naa de yow Mamadou naka lam ñoo jëndalee cash power te fekk mu ngi bitim réew ni jaay
xanaa xamuloo ne ak balu waaye mën a nekk ci bitim réew mun naa yore njabootam gas ba wax ni ngay def yomb na da ngay log on to www.baluwo.com nga jëndee courant ci compagnie yi nga xam ne ñoo saytu wàllu courant ci dëkk yu mel ni Gambia, Sénégal, Mali, Nigeria ak Sierra Leone.
That's what we are getting into now. Welcome back. What's trending? And of course, joining me to tell you and I what has been trending is Sohna Tunkara. Sohna, good morning.
Good morning, Ahmad, and thanks for having me. So, on what's trending today, as part of measures to cope the further spread of the virus in the country, the government laid down some restrictions, including closing of the weekly market fairs, which is of course known as Lumo in our local languages, to at least decrease the number of COVID-19 cases in the country. But of course, since it was closed, many people disgruntled over it, saying it was not the right decision for the government to take because it is going to affect the local settlers in making ends meet, which it is believed that many of them attend these weekly fairs to at least sell their produce and other commodities that are involved to put things in order. But notwithstanding, Amadou, in the latest development yesterday, the government has reopened market fairs with immediate effect. So as we are known for engaging our followers on our social media platforms, many commentators said this was just a way for the government to shift the attention of people in order to cover up for their mistakes. Now, on that, that is what many of them said. So now I will read some of their comments. And read the first we go is Alu Sane. He said, one thing I observe from this government, anytime they break their own laws and regulations and large amount of people develop antagonism against them, they must unwillingly bring out something that will cool them down as a misplaced priorities in expense of super priorities. And she added that it is just a bana republic. Some of these comments on social media is just it.
And bana goes with Lumo thing, you know.
So what can we say? I think he's possibly right. And from Jancha, he said, open the borders and airports and schools. You open for Magal and the markets. You gather people for your political rallies. You can open the country for tourism as well. So, you know, the Magal was an issue yesterday when we discussed on what's trending. Many people also voiced at their angers with regards to the president giving advice, the government rather, giving advice that people should not attend the Magal too bad.
Yeah, of course.
So they frown over that as well.
I was just going to say, talking about the tourism, you also know the tourism season is about to open, and then probably this is also a way to tell people,
and tourist enthusiasts are affected greatly. This COVID-19 has not left anyone behind, rather. And from MC Cham Jr., too bad that he's not here today. Yesterday, he attacked me for not reading his comment.
So you decided to bring him up.
But today, I decided to bring him up. And he said, so Barra's government was waiting for their supreme leader, Honorable Mama Kande, to talk about the reopening of Lumos amid the COVID-19 pandemic before they could declare the markets open. He added that the government press release came immediately after Honorable Mama Kande's powerful press release. So that is MC Cham's comment. And here we also have from one commentator, the person says Gambia needs to improve market infrastructure in this 21st century. Markets should not look like a key market structure. How can we improve health and income of communities having challenges to proper condition market products, and which is of course true. Amadou, our market condition is terrible. It is actually so poor. When you go to the market during this raining season, everything is just so bad. You cannot even have a good road to use.
Talking about markets, you know, President was in Basse over the weekend where he, you know, launched a project of building a new market in Basse. So, I mean, we hope other parts also would have such maybe
we are anticipating that he will bring this new project to the urban areas as well, because our markets cannot stay in this condition.
If you go to, you know, some of us are from these Lumo areas and we know what Lumo is all about. So sometimes you go to certain places is something else. But I hope government would come and help. But then, interesting.
So that is what I have for you on what's trending today in the Gambia from our social media commentators.
You too is, you know, you're also trending, I know. So as she brings you what is trending, she also is trending as always. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And hope to see you tomorrow. Inshallah. Thank you. Sohna Tunkara, giving us and bringing to us more in what's trending. And with that, we will take a short break and come back with the news review. Stay with us.
TRRC is mandated to make recommendations for prosecution or amnesty for human rights violations. However, the TRRC has not made any recommendations for prosecutions yet.
Second and final part just begins. That is the newspaper review. As always, we do every morning, but we are here. So, good FM, okay, new YXCC newspaper review B, and of course, I'm glad to say joining me to do so, or to bring you what the papers have been saying, is Mariama Cham, known as MC. But we first say thank you very much to Star GSM for supporting the newspaper review, and as you can see, of all that you need in terms of mobile accessories, and of course, you know, satellites, receivers, and all that. You and perfumes, you got to visit them. There are various places in the country, so you get it cheaper, and you know what it is. MC,
yes.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Nakamu?
I'm fine.
Naka suba si.
Alhamdulillah.
Lepp sawa.
Yep, sawa.
Gay namoon nañ la de.
Namoon nañ ma kay waaye maa leen raw.
Loo ñu indil tey.
The first story that I have with me, the first paper, sorry, it's Standard newspaper, and it says youths urge Barrow to explain next step after draft failed. Okay. Police investigate alleged rape attempt by a comic soldier. PPP selects Keba Jallow as interim leader. Bar Association expresses disappointment over rejection of draft, and the government gives update on Magal health advice. So
interesting.
Yeah, the first story we will have today is the rape case, the alleged rape case. The police have confirmed receiving a complaint about an alleged rape attempt by an unidentified economic soldier currently with the West African troops stationed in Mankamakunda. The unidentified soldier was being accused of attempting to rape a 16-year-old girl in the Upper River region.
All right. Yesterday we reported about the attempt, and it appears that the police now are doing their work to investigate on the matter. You said mbir mi naka la demee. Am nga affaire rape mom benen affaire la.
The first sensitive.
Wow,
so the other one is the former ruling People's Progressive Party has selected Keba Jallow as interim leader to replace Papanjai, who was recently appointed as the Gambia's new High Commissioner to Nigeria. Yeah, Keba has replaced Papanjai now.
So Papanjai has gone to Nigeria.
Yeah.
They didn't waste time to appoint or to select an interim party leader.
Yeah.
That's politics for you.
That's
PPP.
Politics for you, the fast track.
Exactly.
So now from the Standard newspaper, we'll go to the point, which says new UK High Commissioner hailed for robust stance on press freedom, EU concerned by Gambia's sluggish reform processes, academic crisis looming in Gambia. And government says it is not barring people from attending Magal. So the first story we will have is Issa Sow, Deputy Secretary General, the Gambia Teachers Union, has warned that a potential academic crisis is looming in the Gambia if no action is taking place. DGS Sow said, what is disturbing is the fact that education has never been part of government's priority during COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, and
it's like
a worrisome one also.
Yeah, he said the Gambia is, looming into educational crisis, and I think, the government can look into this to see how best we can tackle this issue.
Yeah, and talking about this, interestingly, as you may know, yesterday was World Teachers Day. Teachers were very happy, and they expressed how happy they are and joyous to be teachers. But today we are talking about crisis.
Yeah, somehow also they have also expressed their frustration because school has been closed for so many months, and there is no notification, anything. Yeah, close to 8 months, and there is no sign of any reopening from the government, and they are really, really disturbed, both teachers, parents, and others' guidance. Yeah. Yeah. So
absolutely. And before we go, it's also good to say this because here. At Africa, we have been receiving concerns and of course that teachers have been so much frustrated, like you said, and some of the teachers, in fact, working for these private schools have not been paid. They have not been receiving their salaries, which has been a very, very big problem and concern.
These are family people, and they need to feed their families and all that.
And I think something needs to be done. But anyway, that's why it is. We will get to the other story.
Yeah. So the last but not the least is government says it's not barring people from attending Magal. The Gambia government has said that, contrary to suggestions decidedly aimed at twisting its previous statement on movement between the Gambia and Senegal, it has no intention of barring people in the Gambia from attending the annual Magal in Senegal.
Instead, they are saying if you go and come back, you provide a certificate, or the quarantine, and then that will be at your own cost.
At your own cost.
So that is it, and I think that it was very clear. But then people, whatever, it's just quite up.
Yeah, many people have looked.
So government felt they need to clarify and make their position very clear.
Especially,
they are not stopping anybody going to the Magal. And this also, in a way, perhaps MC will contradict about border closure. If they are stopping people and borders are closed, what are they saying?
Yeah. Huh? This is definitely contradictory, and people even went to Magal. Like if you go to the Serekunda market, many shops are closed because everybody headed to this Magal in Senegal.
So tey la tey. ñu ñaanal leen jàmm bu baax. Waaw Baye Fall yi ak Yaay Fall yi ak taalibe yëpp ñu ngi leen di ziar tey di leen ñaanal jàmm di leen wax déwénati ci màggal gi tey la foofu ci Touba xam naa ñëpp fu mu nekk nii café bi moom mu ngi sap ci dëkk bi ñaani yokku rek café Touba moom doo fay dañ lay jox affaire yi xam nga waaw Touba gars yi moom macha allah. su ko defee
di ñaax gaay daal na ñaani yokku rek comme que daal ñu ngi Touba te xam nga
absolument
na ñaani yokku rek
waaw yal na yàlla yokku jàmm ji mbas mi jógee fii Covid na dem Covid-19 na ñu ñaan bu baax mu dem.
Amadou li la amaloon tey si newspaper review.
waaw ñu gërëm la bu baax sant la tamit ci taxawaay bi amati na solo Mariama Cham MC ñu bàyyi la rek nga jox gars yi rendez-vous inshallah suba.
Okay, you can join us tomorrow for another newspaper review.
All right. Thank you very much, Mariama Cham MC. With that segment of the newspaper review, finally, of course, brings this Good Morning Africa edition to an end. Thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. We have been with you from 9 a.m. to now, and it has been always good to know that you have been there also with us. Thank you very much for being with us for the past moments or so. So we'll be back tomorrow, inshallah, for the midweek edition of the program, that is the Good Morning Africa. But till we meet again, thank you very much. Jërë ngeen jëf mbokk yi ci ànd bi waaye tamit ci gunge bu ngi ñëw gunge saa su ne ci jotaay ji la ji Good Morning Africa ñu jox leen rendez-vous dig daje suba inshallah ci beneen jotaay ñu àndaat ak yéen ak yeneen gan ci yeneen waxtaan ci yeneen point yu am solo lépp rek ci doxalin réew mi ci niñ koy defee saa su ne waaye balaa loolu ñu ñaanal leen kenn leen jàmm ñu wax leen jërë ngeen jëfati ci ànd bi waaye tamit ci safoo bi ak kóolute bi jërë ngeen jëf